Hello, dear viewers, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm here with a very fascinating story. As we all know, Greek mythology is filled with powerful gods, magical beings, and legendary events. Today, I'll tell you about one of the most captivating love and abduction stories in mythology, Hades and Persephone. This story not only reveals the dark lord of the underworld, Hades, but also shows how Persephone, the herald of spring, came to live a life split between the underworld and the earth. It allows us to explore the cycles of nature and the thin line between life and death. Let's get started. Persephone is the daughter of Demeter, the goddess of fertility in Greek mythology. As a symbol of the fertile fields, blossoming trees, and fruit-bearing plants, she lived a happy life on earth with her mother, Demeter. Persephone's presence represented the continual renewal of nature. Around her, plants bloomed, trees bore fruit, and the earth came to life. However, this peaceful period was disrupted by Hades's growing interest in her. Hades is the god of the underworld. As the lord of the dead, he lived in a gloomy and solitary world far from the surface. This realm, filled with darkness and death, was a kind of exile for Hades. One day, as Hades wandered the earth, he saw Persephone and fell in love with her. However, his love was unrequited. Persephone wished to continue living in the joyful and vibrant world above. Hades, with Zeus's consent, devised a plan. One day, as Persephone was gathering flowers with her friends, Hades' golden chariot suddenly emerged from the depths of the earth. He swept Persephone into the chariot and took her to the underworld. Before she knew what was happening, Persephone found herself in the middle of Hades' dark kingdom. The underworld was a bleak, cold place where the shadows of the dead roamed. Persephone struggled to accept this new life, constantly longing for her mother and the world above. Persephone's abduction plunged her mother Demeter into deep sorrow. Demeter wandered the earth in search of her daughter, but found no trace of her. This long search, which lasted months, brought with it Demeter's fury toward the world. Her grief and anger were so immense that all the plants on earth began to wither. The crops dried up, trees stopped bearing fruit, and the world was plunged into a cold winter. People faced famine and hardship. Demeter pleaded with Zeus for help, demanding the return of her daughter. Zeus intervened in the situation and negotiated a deal with Hades. However, Persephone had eaten a pomegranate seed in the underworld, which strengthened her bond with that realm and required her to stay there. Nevertheless, a compromise was reached. Persephone would spend 6 months of the year with Hades in the underworld, and 6 months with her mother on earth. Persephone's descent to the underworld would signify winter, while her return to the surface would herald the arrival of spring. In this way, the cycles of nature were explained through this myth. Persephone's abduction story holds a multi-layered meaning. Psychologically speaking, Persephone's abduction by Hades can be seen as a metaphor for the dark night of the soul. These kinds of stories often symbolize an individual's confrontation with their darker aspects and their growth through life's hardships. Hades' desire to keep Persephone in the underworld may not only stem from love, but also be a response to his own loneliness. Living in a world filled with the dead, Hades likely thought Persephone would bring meaning to his life. From a psychoanalytic perspective, Hades' situation could symbolize the human tendency to cling to someone when they feel isolated and alone. This is a common occurrence in human psychology. Sometimes the feeling of loneliness creates a desire to latch onto a relationship. On the other hand, Persephone's reactions to Hades are equally intriguing. Initially, she is unhappy with the situation, feeling she has been abducted and deprived of her freedom. However, over time, she adopts the role of Queen of the Underworld. This process could perhaps be linked to Stockholm Syndrome in modern psychology. Could we discuss the bond that develops over time between someone held captive and their captor in this context? The story's significance regarding social dynamics and power is also substantial. Persephone's transformation into a queen in the underworld reflects how she discovers her own power. This illustrates how, even in oppressive or challenging situations, a woman can find her strength. Persephone's return to the surface and the onset of spring symbolize her control over the cycles of life. In a way, Persephone's story could be interpreted as a metaphor for the empowerment of women. In Greek mythology, the changing of the seasons is explained through Persephone's descent into the underworld and her return. This cycle parallels not only the rhythms of nature, but also the inner transformation of individuals. The arrival of spring symbolizes not just the revival of the external world, but also an internal rebirth. So, my friends, we've seen how deep the story of Hades and Persephone truly is. It's not just a tale of love and mythology, but also an exploration of psychology and social power dynamics. Whose side are we on in this story? Is Hades' love stronger, or is Persephone's transformation more powerful? Share your thoughts in the comments below, as I'm really curious to know what you think. Also, if you're interested in mythology, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like the video. See you in the next one.